Hello everyone, my name is Kla Chakritantitam Tawon. I am a senior lecturer in software engineering at Monash University. Today, I am going to present the paper titled An Empirical Study of Model-Agnostic Techniques for Defect Prediction Models. As everyone knows that software defects are very costly and prevalent, but they are very hard to predict and to prevent. So practitioners want to find and fix defects as early as possible instead of fixing them in productions. That's why SQA practices like exploratory testing or code review have been adopted in many software organizations. But such activities are still very time-consuming and very expensive. So let's imagine that you work at Google with millions lines of code. You just have no idea which files are likely to be defective in the future. And developers cannot efficiently and effectively find the highest numbers of defects given the limited time and resources. To address this problem, defect prediction models have been proposed to help developers prioritize their limited SQA resources on the most risky files. So defect models are an AI or machine learning model to predict which files are likely to be defective in the future. And in general, we start from preparing a training dataset or defect dataset, then we build a model. For a given file of interest, we input this file into the defect model to understand the prediction whether a file will be defective in the future or not. However, such AI or machine learning based defect prediction models are still very complex and often treated as black box. For example, deep learnings often have millions of learned parameters, random forests often have thousands of trees, so they are very hard to understand how does it work inside. When we talk to practitioners, they often ask questions like, why this file is predicted as defective? Why not clean? Why this file is predicted as defective? Why another file is predicted as clean? So a lack of explainability of defect models often lead to a lack of trust in the predictions. And this poses a critical challenge to the adoption of defect models in practice. So finally, practitioners might just say no to the defect models and don't use it. Thus, prior studies often used model interpretation techniques like ANOVA or for regression models or variable importance for random forest model to better understand what factors are the most important. However, this is not enough. Such global explanations are quite generic and they are often derived based on training dataset. They are not specific to the individual prediction of the instance to be explained. To address this challenge, this paper is the first to adopt model-agnostic techniques from the explainable AI domain to explain the predictions of defect models. And such explanations will provide extra information to practitioners so they can understand why a machine makes that kind of predictions, or developers can make a better data-informed decisions whether they should trust the predictions of defect models or not. LIME is one of the state-of-the-art model-agnostic techniques, which is published at KDD 2016. To date, this technique has been widely used in many domains with more than 5,000 citations, but still have been rarely explored in software engineering. The goal of the LIME model-agnostic technique is to build a local interpretable model that mimics the predictions of the global models. So, given an instance to be explained and a global defect model, LIME performs the following step. First, LIME generates synthetic samples around the neighborhood, and then LIME will build a local interpretable model or K-lasso model for our case to locally approximate the predictions of the underlying global model. And then LIME will generate an explanation by extracting which features are most important to the individual prediction of the instance to be explained. Prior studies argue that explanations should be presented as answers to why questions. Now, I will show how LIME can be used to generate a contrastive explanation to answer many why questions. So let's take a look at an example visual explanation here generated by LIME. We apply LIME to explain the predictions of this file, notifybuilder.java from the Camel project. And the global model predicts this file to be defective with a probability of 74%. And in this example, the blue bars indicate the supporting score or the factors that support the predictions, while the red bars indicate the contradicting score or the factors that contradict the prediction. So first, we can use LIME to answer a plain fact. Why is this file predicted as defective? So we use the LIME support explanation to answer this question. For this one, it shows that this file is predicted as defective because of having the numbers of class couple greater than 5. So it implies that developers should consider reducing the numbers of class couple to mitigate the risk of having defects. Second, we're going to use LIME to understand the property contrast, or why is this file predicted as defective rather than clean. So we're going to use the LIME contradict explanation to answer this question. For this one, it shows that this file is not predicted as clean because of having the numbers of developer less than 2. Therefore, it implies that developers should consider maintaining the numbers of developer less than or equal to 2. Third, we can also use LIME to understand the time contrast explanation as well. If we apply LIME to the predictions of the same file but in different releases, we can also better understand why this file predicted as defective in the release 1 but predicted as clean in the release number 2. Finally, we can use LIME to understand the object contrast as well. Given the same releases but different files, we can use LIME to explain why is file A predicted as defective, why file B is predicted as clean. So there are so many potential usage scenarios when using explainable AI techniques to address the software engineering problems to discover knowledge. However, little is known about how well when such tools be used for explaining the predictions of defect models. In this paper, we set out to investigate 6 research questions. We're going to present one by one as follows. For the first research questions, we asked how well can we improve the accuracies of the LIME local models. Because LIME actually has so many hyperparameter settings, we want to know whether such parameters have an impact on the the accuracies of the local models or not. And what we found is that when we optimize the hyperparameter settings of LIME, we can improve the local goodness of fit measured in terms of R² by on average 8%. And then we also investigate, do different predictions have different explanations or not? The intuition is that normally global explanation is too generic. It's like one model, we get one explanation, but they are not individually explain the predictions of the unseen data. So we want to investigate whether they are different or not. And what we found is that given the same defect models, different predictions actually have different local explanation. This finding actually highlights the need of the explainable AI tools for software engineering, and we should focus more on the local explanations instead of relying on the global explanations. Third, we asked, are local explanations overlap with the global explanations or not? So the key intuition is that ideally local models should accurately mimic the predictions of the global model. So what we find is that top 10 features of the local explanations are mostly overlapping with the global model, but they are not the same at all. So we kind of understand that most of the local explanations are in line with the global, but they are not the same. And fourth, we asked about are model-agnostic techniques rely on random seed or not? So LIME actually involves lots of randomization, generate the synthetic samples. So we want to know whether there is an impact with the random seeds or not. So what we find is that yes, random seeds need to be defined to increase the stability of the model-agnostic techniques. And the research question 5, we want to investigate as well how fast it is. So LIME may incur overhead when we adopt in practice, but we still don't know how slow they are. So what we found is that LIME is crazily fast for defect models. Finally, when we generate lots of visual explanations, we want to investigate as well how do practitioners perceive with the visual explanations generated by these techniques, right? So what we found is that 65% of the participants agree that explanations are insightful and useful. So these results lead us to conclude that XAI tools are needed, they are insightful, they are fast, and they are perceived as useful by practitioners for explaining the predictions of defect models. So now we're going to call for a new research topic. Is in the areas of explainable AI for software engineering. I think the key question is that how can we make software analytics for other tasks, other SE tasks more explainable and more actionable as well? If you would like to learn more about this area, please see our XAI for SE book. Thank you so much.